Hello, it's Pwnsalot again, and I'm here with another exciting episode of... Yeah! Okay, so what we're going to really do today is we're going to show you guys a bunch of different gear sets for Geomancer. This was a request by a friend of mine, I guess, on the server that was like, well, I mean, I really liked your talking about Paladin and all that gear, but I see you play other jobs. Can we see some more of your jobs and some equipment to look forward to getting? And so that's what this video is about. I put together a small list of equip sets for a Geomancer job. This is assuming you play Geomancer like sub-red mage mostly, where you would have magic accuracy as a big deal. And yeah, that's basically it, so let's get right into it. Of course you need a style lock, so I just go with the regular JSE styles because I really like the way that it looks. As you can clearly see, I've got on the side of the, that side of the screen, I've got a picture of a Geomancer girl that's just so happy to be here, and she's doing a lot of scrolling, wearing this costume. So yeah, it's really cool. So I've got that as the style lock, and for the equip sets that I would normally cycle through, we've got an idle set / town set that we would wear. Some random arbitrary level 119 staff until you get Idris would be acceptable. Solstice is really good, but I fought it like 30 times and only got one Solstice for my mule and not one for my main. So I don't have a Solstice on this account, but Rubicundity is pretty good. It has perfect dogs as well. You can't see that in the equip set, but there are perfect dogs there. So it's got some conserve MP to go along with a bunch of other goodies. It's just a good good club. I would recommend it for sure. There's not too many good shields that Geomancer gets, and their shield skill is quite on the lacking side anyway, so it's no big deal if you run around with like an old school shield, like a Gen Boost shield level 74, or something like that, or a sword shield would be fine. I use the Genmei shield because it's really cool, and I like the stats on it for every job that can use it. It's really good. If you don't have that, you could go for Calminus. That's also a really good shield for Geomancer, and in fact, those are the only two I cycle through. I refuse to equip the Sword Shield because Geomancer doesn't have a healing skill, and unless you sub White Mage and have a lot of healing skill gear, you're not really going to do much as a healer, so this Sword Shield's barely going to help you. But you can as an option if that's your job and you're supposed to heal with sub White Mage, then use the Sword Shield the whole time. That is fine. So there's a few shields that are good, yeah, for sure. There's a few handbells in the game. The only one that is good is Dana, so go ahead and get yourself a Dana. Make sure you go ahead and finish the augments on it, because those are really good stats. They could be a lot better, but this is all we get right now. So there you go. So that's your accessory, your little bell that you get. What else do we have? Since it is an idle set, we're going to tackle the defense, evasion, refresh, regen ticks. So what we have here is the best refresh piece in the game for a lot of jobs for the head slot, other than Red Mage. And as a side note, it is also the best enfeebling headpiece in the game, other than the Red Mage gear that you could get in this slot. So definitely a really good idle piece here. You got your Bathy Choker +1 for the regen. You could use a few different things like Sanctity as well if you want. Let's see, you've got some accessories on your ear slots. Doesn't really matter, I mean, what you put here, of course, but just something that makes you tanky. So I go with like the typical, like, convert damage to MP, or like, don't take much damage at all because -2 on the magic damage, or like, you could go, Ediolation here, you could go Genmei here, wherever Genmei is, I just saw it. You can go Genmei right here. You can do a lot of things. It doesn't really matter. Whatever you want to do. For the rings, it's the same case basically. I mean, the Church is good for the regen tick, and it is an idle set, so you should be regenning. If you have the refresh rings, the Stakini rings, then +1, then you're gonna want to get those in those slots. When in doubt, equip the defending ring. Why not? I mean, it's global damage taken -10, so that's really good. Moving on to some other core pieces, I like the Geomancy JSEs, the Artifact JSEs, especially that now that you can take them up to +3. I have the +2 piece here, and I think it's really solid for an idle piece. It's just some extra tankiness on the Luopan, it's got extra tankiness on you, it's got extra geo skill, it's just all around badass piece of gear. Witching Robe with perfect augments is really good. Like, you get an extra refresh tick on top of your 2. You could go ahead and use Jockery for the +3 refresh as well. And since you can make that a +4 now, that might even be better than Witching Robe. But that's your call. If you want to spend the 10 medals to get it a +2 Jockery instead, then you can do that. Otherwise, I would stay with Witching Robe for just about every job that can use it. For the cape slot, I mean, I really think this is the best cape in the game right now for idling. There's not much else in the game you could get in the slot that has that kind of tankiness to keep you alive. So I mean, I would just go with it. If you really want to troll, you could go with like a regen piece. I know of like a level 80 piece that you could put in this slot. That is, I'll find it really quick. It is, it's a regen +2, I believe it is. Yeah, Scooter Cape. Regen +2, level 88. For sure, regen +2, I looked at it, so it's definitely a decent regen piece. But if you don't want to carry that, you just carry the Moonbeam Cape, that'll be fine. For the belt, I mean, Future no Obi is literally the staple people use. The latent effect kicks in at like maybe 50 or 75% remaining max MPE, and then from there on, you just get a refresh tick until you're like up to full, and then almost up to full, and then it'll stop being a latent effect. It won't be in effect while you're at full MP, but it doesn't need to be in effect while you're at full MP. So there you go. So that's what I would use in that slot. This is definitely, without a doubt, the best legs for your idling in, because of the refresh +2, +1 if you're in the wrong unity, but if you're in the right unity, which would be your and Orn, like the rest of us, then it would be a +2 refresh tick, really good. I would definitely grab that. Side note, I mean, I know this is not about Summoner, this is about Geo, but that Avatar Perpetuation cost -3, never looked at that before. Played Summoner yesterday, saw it, I'm like, hell yeah, that's awesome. That's like 5 mana refresh right there, because 3 for the Perpetuation, right, and then 2 for the refresh. So like 5 to counteract your Avatar leeching your MP, that's pretty strong. That's pretty strong on Summoner too. But on Geo, yeah, I would definitely use it, same piece. You could also switch it up and use Lingo Pants. If you got some pretty good augments on, you could use Lingo Pants for the refresh tick. It's not as much, but if you're in the wrong unity, it'll be exactly the same amount for you, so it doesn't really matter. And the Lingo stats are better because it's Sinister Rain gear, which is a couple tiers higher than your Unity gear, which would be the Assiduity Pants. So there's that. Okay, so the last piece for idling in is, of course, your movement speed piece. You need at least 1 movement speed piece on your idle set. So you go with your best movement speed piece for the whole set. You put 1 out of 16 of your slots dedicated to movement speed, and that's it. So in this case, it will be this this foot here. These boots can go up to +3 and get 18%, but for now they're a +2 with 12%, and they're pretty legit. I really like them. So try to get these +3 if you can, because they're really, really good. This whole set needs to be +3, to be totally honest, the Geomancy set, and that will make you a very happy Geomancer for sure. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about some more sets. I've got a short list here, so we'll go through them. Fast cast, I mean, I'm sure you can find some sort of main and sub weapons to actually use with fast cast, but I really couldn't. So I'm just going to look at what I have. Currently, I have the Amaric on here with the fast cast 10. You could also switch this up to the Merlinic, because that's fast cast 8. So it's up to you, however you want to do that. You can go from 1 to 4 fast cast on the next slot, depending on if you get the Jeweled Collar or if you get the, I can't remember the name of it, but there's another item, it's like Energizing Torque or something like that, and it's got like +4, so you can do that. Fast cast E-Ring right here. If you have the Loquacious, which I don't have it yet, I'll pick it up later. Then you can put it in the other slot, but if not, then just, you know, keep a tanky piece in the other slot if you don't have 2 fast cast pieces. Same can be said for the rings. Like, if you don't have 2 fast cast rings, just put like Defending Ring on 1 slot or something like that, just in case, you know. But if you do have the quick magic rings, these are pretty good quick magic stuffs right here. It's kind of a double-edged sword though, because if you get the quick magic proc while you're macroing your fast cast set on to like, say, let's cast a Geo Bubble, if you get the quick magic on the Geo Bubble, it kind of sucks for you, because if you didn't have 900 Geo skill on the fast cast set, which you usually don't, that's a side note, you should really consider putting some Geomancer skill on your fast cast set. If it's already really high fast cast, you could cut some fast cast off and put some Geomancer skill. Like this necklace, I'm thinking I'm just going to change it to an Incanter's Torque, just to solve that problem, because that's 20 skill right there with the Geomancer and the handbell to stay closer to 900. Because what will happen is you'll blink into this fast cast set, get the quick magic proc, get your spell instantly cast, which is great, hooray, but if you don't have the Geomancer skill on at the time, well, sucks for you, you're not going to have a really good bubble there. So consider that for sure when you're doing your fast cast set, how you want to actually set that up. If you're using the quick magic, it's a really big deal to have some skill, but if you're not using the quick magic, then I probably would just put fast cast in these slots here, these three, and then call it a day. Because you're never going to get the quick magic proc if you don't have it on your gear, right? So you could just do that and forget the skill. So it's your call how you want to do that. Regal +1 would be better than this one, but it's only by +1 fast cast. It's not a big deal. So just get the Regal pumps. They're the best in slot for fast cast on all the jobs that can use it. Let's see, Geomancy pants are insane for fast cast. There's an 11 here on the +1, really good. Spell interruption rate's also pretty good. For hands, you could do a lot of different things, but I just stick with like the ones that I use on all these jobs, which is the Helios, because I've augmented them. They're real easy to get and real easy to augment, quite cheap to augment as well, and you can augment them with fast cast and put the fast cast on them. I don't know where the gloves are actually at. I'm trying to find them. Helios. Here they are. So you've got your fast cast 3, that could go up higher for sure. There's a ley line that you can't equip on Geos, so you don't get that fast cast 8 on this job. So the Helios would cover the jobs that the ley line doesn't, which would include this Geomancer, right? So I use the Helios. We'll find better gloves in the future, probably. On a side note, if you don't have the Regal pumps, you can also use Helios on the feet, for sure. I don't know where my Helios feet are actually at, but you can totally put Helios with fast cast Augs in all the slots you need. For the body, you got fast cast 6 on Merlinic. Of course, Helios would have fast cast as well too, so you could just do that. It's your call there. And for the cape, you could use Swift Cape. Pretty good. The +1 version, I think, is 2 fast cast or something like that. So that would be your set for your fast cast. For your bubble, this is probably the most important set, so we're going to go ahead and look at it. So this bubble needs to have all the skill that you can put on it until, of course, you know that you're at cap skill, which is around 900. It's probably like 888 or something like that, but it's around 900. Anything farther than that literally does nothing for your character. You can test what the cap is if you're really curious by like just doing any sort of buff spell like Indie Fury with your Geo skill on, and you'll see the attack level go up on your guy. For example, with Indie Fury, you would see your 1025 attack go up. So just make sure you know what set of gear you're looking at after you're done with the spell, and make sure when you're testing something like this that you're looking at the same set of gear each time. So you could either take it all off after you cast your Indie Fury and see what it looks like and then test it that way, or you could just make sure you blink back into an idle set every time, so that way the gear is not the issue and you can compare the two attack values and figure out what your Geo cap needs to be that way. But for me, I just say fuck it, I put all the Geo skill on here and worry about it later. Like, there's nothing bad with that strategy. If you have 50 extra Geomancer skill and you just don't need it, who cares? Because you're blinking out of that when the spell's cast anyway. So for my set, I put as much skill and conserve MP as I can on the set. So you've got your Incanter's Torque, best in slot here for the necklace. Very important to get to 900 in a lot of cases, especially if you don't have the job points. You need this for sure. For the earring, I like the conserve MP there, so we'll go with the gifted earring. Tanky earring in the other slot, why not? Whatever. I mean, another conserve MP would be really good there too. Speaking of conserve MP, you could go with austerity belt in the belt slot because there's no real skill belt that I know of. So you could go austerity and get the conserve MP that way as well. And for the rings, I would just go ahead and put the all magic skills +5, because for Geomancer this is a +20 between the two of them, because you get handbell skill and Geomancer skill +5 on each of these slots. So 5, 5, and 5, 5. So you got 20 there. Same with this, it's 20. So that's really good. So things like that say all skills, they stack with Geo. Remember that the Geomancer adds the two magic skills together to get the total. so that they would definitely stack with stuff like that. So get gear like that when you can, and as far as I know, those are the 3 pieces that do it with the all skills. So that's really good. Stikini +1 would be super good on Geomancer, by the way, so think about getting that if you're going to be a main Geomancer. Let's see, the Azimuth set's actually pretty good. Same with the Bagua and the Geomancy set. All 3 of the pieces are found on the Geomancer set for the Geomancy skill equip set, because each of the sets have 1 or 2 pieces that are dedicated to either Indicolor Duration or Geomancy skill. So they want you to get all the 3 sets, right? That's the whole reason they put it on different slots, right? Because the head piece of the Azimuth set is the Geomancy skill, but the other 4 don't have Geomancy skill. And then the body piece of the Bagua is the Geomancy skill, but the other 4 slots don't have Geomancy skill, right? And then same for the Geomancy gloves. You got Geomancy Metains, and they have Geomancy skill, but the other 4 slots of the Geomancy set do not have the magic skill, right? So that's what they do to get you to work on all the sets, and I do have all the sets done for Geomancer, so I'm just kind of showing it off here. This is what you would want to build, guys. You would want the Azimuth head, you would want the Bagua body, the Geomancy hands, and you would want Bagua and Azimuth legs and feet, alright? Because of the Indicolor Duration on these guys, really good. So that's what your 5-piece set is going to look like if you reach the cap on your Geomancy skill, and you don't need any more Geomancy skill. And in fact, by taking off, like say these gloves, by taking these gloves off, you're actually still at the cap on Geomancy skill. Then and only then can you sub the Geomancy skill piece you just took off with an Indicolor Duration piece or Bubble Duration piece of some kind. Like if you have Indicolor Duration, like hands or something like that, then you could put those in that slot. I'm not sure exactly what I would use because I haven't really tested to see how far over cap I am, but if you are over cap, you can knock the skill down and put the color duration up on those slots. You could do that. That's a really smart idea. The Azimuth set has a set bonus, so when in doubt, you can always just put an Azimuth piece in the Geomancy slots here, like the body and the hands, for example. In this case, you'd put another Azimuth piece in these 2 slots if you're over cap on the Geomancy skill, which you will be when you start getting Master Geo. So then you would go more Azimuth and less of this other bullshit, right? For the cape, you definitely want to go ahead and invest in the, not the Incursion cape, the Reeve cape right here that I have. This is from a colonization Reeve. You could just go out and do some Reeves, break down some walls and stuff like that, and then like bring Mr. Gorbachev with you because he's really good at the walls sort of thing. So you could do that, and and then you'll have the Geomancy skill up to +15, I believe, because 10 is cap on the augment. So that's pretty good. But again, if you don't need the Geomancy skill, you could just go with the Nanto Swelda's cape, or something like maybe Moonbeam cape to be tanky while you're casting your spells, or some spell interruption cape if you can find one. I'm sure there is one that you could use instead. So there's options for you when you reach that Geo skill cap. But if you're not there, this is the set you're going to really look at. So there you go, there's that. Geomancy Magic Attack. Okay, so when you're actually using like Geomalaise and Indie Acumen, or like Indie Int or Indie Haste with Geomalaise, anything that's gonna, Indie Langor, there's another one, anything that's gonna really power up your magic attack, then it might be in your best interest to contribute to the magic damage that you're gonna generate. So as the Geomancer, you have that option. So this is something a lot of Geomancers don't do, so we do need to take a few minutes and talk about a set that gives you magic attack bonus. And then we'll go with magic accuracy, because that's another thing Geomancers don't do, right? So you should do these things, but you also should wear the Source Shield if you're subbing White Mage, and I told you earlier, fuck that, you don't have a good healing skill. You can get a good healing skill, and you can do it, but I don't like that idea. That's a really stupid idea in my opinion. So in this case, we're going to focus on magic attack, magic accuracy, not so much healing, right? Okay, so that's, just know you need healing gear for your healing set, right? And there's enough for Geo to do this, so you can consider that. Incanter's Torque, you know, the Source Shield, it goes on and on and on this list. Okay, so for the magic attack bonus set, you're going to get Barcarolle Earring. You can quest this, it takes a while, but get it, it's totally worth it. Get this earring. This is a great earring. Just get it, okay? Barcarolle Earring. Off slot for your ears, you're going to use Friomisi.
because of the plus 10. It's busted. I told you in my holy set on the Paladin video that this is a busted item. So just get this. It's cheap. Maybe. I don't even know. It was cheap for me. And it's plus 10 magic attack bonus. You can't beat that with the stick, guys. Get it. Okay, so for the neck piece, you can go a lot of different ways. You can go Incanters if you really want the elemental magic plus 10. But if you don't care about that so much, and you want the magic attack plus 10, there you go, Sanctity Necklace. In this slot, you can also get the same Elversil Dragon's gear, which would be Eshin Stone. Remember we talked about this before with the Sanctity and the Eshin combo? Both best in slot for magic attack bonus for a lot of jobs. So you would get these two pieces of gear for your elemental magic set. You can get Merlinic, and all of the other pieces, all of the 5 armor pieces could be Merlinic. That's fine. But for me, I've got Merlinic in the head and the body, and I've got Merlinic in the legs. And I've got magic attack bonus, magic attack bonus augments on them, magic accuracy augments on them, and I also will go with, like this one's magic accuracy and magic attack plus a lot because it's a dark matter aug, I believe. But like I'll go with magic burst damage as well because I use the same set on Black Mage. So Geomancer definitely needs that value as well. So you could consider using magic burst damage gear. You could consider making a second set that doesn't have magic burst damage gear, and you could make an elemental magic set and an elemental magic burst set. If you would like, you can do that. That's a really good idea. But just, you know, if you want to just use the same piece for the entire time, just make sure it's got some magic burst damage on it. That's really strong. Speaking of magic burst damage, you use the Almaric hands to do that. If you're not caring about magic burst damage, you can go Merlinic, like I said earlier. And there's an elemental glove that Geomancer gets in one of its JSEs, I believe, that you can use as well to get your magic attack bonus that way. So I don't know what it's called, but there's a lot of JSE that give you magic attack bonus, and there's a lot of non-JSE that give you magic burst damage. So it just depends on what you want to do. For magic burst damage feat, I'll go with the Jackery +1 because it's ambuscade gear. It's real easy to get, and it's got the magic burst damage on there right there. So you could make do with that. So Amalric, Jackery, and Merlinic, some combination of that. Maybe some JSE pieces if you don't have the other stuff, and that'll be fine. Nantos Weltus Cape from Ambuscade with Intelligence Augment, and Magic Accuracy, Magic Attack, Magic Damage augments. This is going to be your Magic Attack Cape. And that's basically the whole set, guys. It's no brainer. It's all just Magic Attack bonus. Whenever you have a slot, Magic Attack bonus. Now, I don't have the Shiva earring, or the Shiva rings, so the Stikini rings are what I use instead. I do like the Stikini ring because it's all jobs, and all those stats are really relevant for a lot of equip sets. So it's like, it's more like 20 inventory spaces in 2 inventory slots instead. So because it has so much value. So I save a lot of inventory by just using the Stikinis, but I nerf my damage output by a couple hundred each time I want to cast a Fire 5 or something like that, because I don't have the Shiva rings in these slots. So you could get Shiva rings, you could get Stikini, there's a lot of stuff you can get for the rings, for sure, and earrings. But I think those are the best 2 earrings in the game, and I think the Shivas would be the only thing better than these for the rings. You could also go Jackery ring. That's not a bad idea, so you could go Jackery here in this slot if you would like, and in the other slot you could go like Muujin Band. That's another good option for you for your elemental magic set if you don't have the Shivas or the Stikinis. The only other thing you could use there, I believe, would be Arniva ring +1. You could get this for a pretty decent price, and it's got magic attack bonus on it and magic accuracy on it too. So you could try that. So those are pretty much all your options for your magic attack, but they are there in every slot, so you should definitely consider making a set of gear for that. For magic accuracy, it's a whole nother can of worms. You're gonna really use magic accuracy for level 150 content if you're trying to like land a frazzle or something on like a really high level boss. Then you're going to want the magic accuracy set over the magic attack set. Pretty much every time you cast Frazzle above level 120, you're going to want magic accuracy for sure, because you'll get resisted. You'll start getting resisted towards 130 and up. But in other cases, you'll be using magic accuracy for like other than your enfeebling magic, you're going to be using for the high level bosses. So those two things are basically it. Enfeebling, high level, and high level mobs. So this is what the set looks like. You don't really have a decent shield that I'm aware of that has magic accuracy or enfeebling skill on it, so I just go with the regular tank shield. Now, if you noticed in the last equip set, we did actually change the shield to the Commodus because it's got magic attack plus 20 on it and magic damage plus 75. That's really, really good for a magic attack set. So let's just make sure that I mention that if I hadn't already. But every other set of gear is going to go with the Genmei shield for the most part. Or the Saurus shield if you're sub-white mage and you really need the cure bonus, you could try that. But those are the 3 shields I would ever use on Geomancer. As far as I know, those are the best 3. For magic accuracy set, you're going to want, every slot needs to have a lot of magic accuracy in it, duh, right? And enfeebling magic if you can. So what we really have here is we have the Barcarolle earring in this slot, and because I don't have another magic accuracy earring, I use magic critical hit rate plus 14 on the last earring, because that could be relevant, right? Depending on what I'm trying to do. So for that equip set, I'm going to use those 2 earrings. The Stiginis again for the magic accuracy plus 16, not bad. You could switch out for Jackery if you're feeling froggy, because it's almost the same. But either way, that's what I would go for the rings. For the neck, you could go a few different ways. If you have Incanters, you could go Incanters. But it's not going to really help you so much with magic accuracy and enfeebling, so maybe the plus 10 enfeebling is not going to get you there on the Incanters. So for me, I actually chose Arrow Pendant over Incanters because magic accuracy plus 17 is really strong, and all those other buffs might be relevant as well. So this is definitely a good piece of gear to pick up, and it's definitely probably best. It's most likely best in slot for your enfeebling set, for your magic accuracy set, all of that, because even though it doesn't have enfeebling magic skill plus 10 like the Incanters would have, it has all of this other stuff, which is even higher values on, like, say, magic accuracy, for example. So I'm going to say it's probably better all around, and you could make up the, and you can quote me on this, you could make up the enfeebling magic skill level that the Incanters has in another slot on your equip set. It doesn't have to be here. Okay? You want the best of the best in each of these slots, and if you look at both of those in a vacuum, I think the Arrow Pendant is just as good as the Incanters. If you look at them both outside of that vacuum, you just realize that you need to stack magic accuracy and stack enfeebling magic skill. When you look at it that way, it becomes more obvious to not do the Incanters, because you could make that, like I said, make the 10 up on another slot. Totally fine. Totally fine. So those are your 2 choices for the necklaces that you could get. The headpiece, really OP idol set that I talked about at the beginning. This is good. Enfeebling skill plus 16, magic accuracy plus 20. If you don't have this, or you don't want to use this because it's not enough magic accuracy for you, you want to go Merlinic. No doubt. Get some good magic accuracy augments on your Merlinic, and then there you go, you're in business. If you don't have the Merlinic and you want to try something else that's still not befouled because you really don't want that enfeebling magic skill for one reason or another, even though it shouldn't even be on the item and it makes the item broken that it's on the item, if you would still rather not have a befouled helm, for whatever reason, you could go a whole bunch of different ways on the magic accuracy for this job. Let me find another piece of gear that I would use. A Malric. I could use that in that slot. That's fine. That's a lot of magic accuracy between the augments on the path A and the, there's another path that I think magic accuracy plus 20 instead, so you can get that as well. And then on the item, it's got another plus 26 right there, so, I mean, you could go that instead if you would rather do that. But I personally think the Befouled Crown's got both magic accuracy and enfeebling, and since this is a combo set, I would want both of those stats, and that piece of gear has both of those stats, so it's more important than any other piece of gear, in my opinion, for a magic accuracy set. 9 times out of 10, your magic accuracy is going to be an enfeebling spell that you're trying to resolve, so that makes it better. The only other percent of the time that the enfeebling skill would be irrelevant would be if you're actually trying to land an elemental magic spell or some other kind of spell like this on a monster and they're resisting you and you want maximum damage. Then you could add more magic accuracy and you wouldn't even care about the enfeebling. And since there's no elemental skill on this gear would not be the best in slot for that situation only. Other than that, if you're trying to frazzle something or something of that nature, this is best, for sure. Moving on, The Merlinic body, if you've got really good augments on it, is really all of the Merlinic with really good augments is really good. So you could consider using full Merlinic with magic accuracy and attack if you want. That's really recommended for a lot of content since Merlinic's not that hard to get, and augmenting it's relatively cheap. You could get the whole 5-piece set and be done with it, and it would be magic accuracy and attack in some cases, depending on how you augment it. So that's 2 sets in 1, saves you some inventory space. Perhaps you save some inventory space that way. The only other body armor that would be better than this that's not Merlinic would be the same piece of body armor that I'm trying to get from Oryu 2, from the Savage Phantom Gem content. There's a body armor that the Oryu Dragon drops, and this body armor has a lot of enfeebling magic skill on it. So in that case, and magic accuracy, so in that case it would actually be better than the Merlinic Jubba for a lot of content you would need enfeebling and magic accuracy on. I would say it would be better than the Jubba. But if you have a really good Merlinic Jubba, just use that, right? Now, in the hand slot, you could go Merlinic, but if you have these, I would recommend these, for the same reason that I would recommend the Oryu body that I just mentioned, and the Befouled Crown, because they actually have both magic accuracy and enfeebling on the piece. Really, really good for your magic accuracy set. Do it. Speaking of, look at the belt. Magic accuracy, enfeebling magic. Do you see how it's not the same thing as an Eshin Stone? It's not the same thing as the Eshin Stone. You could use the Eshin Stone, but put the two together and weigh them. Weigh those options, and you'll see that this is a superior item for the same reason that those gloves are a superior item and that the hat is the superior item, and when I get the body would be a superior item because it's got both stats again. Very important to get as much of both of those as you can. Oh, hey Archa, we just did an event together, so she found me. You're interrupting my video. Silly goose. Okay, so moving on, the last couple pieces that you could go if you don't do Merlinic, you have other options. Of course, for the legs, I use the Merlinic because inventory saves on inventory to do stuff like that. But you can change this up to I think Quranic actually. No, not Quranic. I don't think you can wear Quranic on Geomancer. Yeah, you can't. Okay. So then in that case, you could use JSE, you could use Merlinic, magic accuracy on, what piece? I'm sure there's a piece, guys. Lingo has magic accuracy, you could use that from Sinister Rain. What else? Geo Gear. Too bad the JSE doesn't have any magic accuracy, right? Jokri has magic accuracy, probably best in slot too. So you could go Jokri if you want. If you don't have a really good Merlinic, you can go Jokri for sure. I think that's about it. Yeah, that's about it. If you want some triple attack on your Geomancer, you could use Quickening Brace. But we're not here for that, right? We're not trolling today. So then in the last slot, I like medium Sabbats because I think it's a really broken item. It has magic accuracy and enfeebling magic skill as well, so that's a thing. I believe I do have... Oh yeah, that's right. The Quranic legs would be able to use enfeebling, and they can't be equipped by Geo, like I just said. So I was going to say, I almost have 5/5 enfeebling and magic accuracy, a hybrid body armor piece, or I'm sorry, hybrid armor set. 5/5. Almost. I need, for Red Mage, I have the Quranic legs and all the other pieces except for that body armor. And then I'll be 5/5 on the hybrid set, which is really good. But on Geo, there is no leg because you don't get Quranic. So as far as I know, there's no leg. You have to get augments from Merlinic that would give you magic accuracy and enfeebling. Perhaps. I don't even know. I don't even know how you're going to pull that one off. But this is the best you got, I think, for the most part. These feet are really busted because it gives you the skill. It gives you Conserve MP. Those are very good things to have on Geo. And it also has enfeebling skill on it. It also has magic accuracy on it. Like, it's just a roundabout really good item to have. And it's high level content item, so it's got best in slot buffs on it. Like a lot of the other pieces that look anything as good as any of these, all these other pieces would have like enfeebling magic skill plus 13 or plus 12 instead of plus 15 in this slot. They would have magic accuracy plus 20 instead of 25 in this slot, because this is better than 119. Most 119 stuff is worse than the medium savants. So think about stuff like that. That's basically the whole set for the magic accuracy. So I want to go ahead and get into another set of gear. The tank set. So the tank set, this is basically what you would use if you're not really idling and you don't need movement speed. So it's going to look a lot like your idle set, but it's not going to have any movement speed on it. That's the big difference. Instead of the movement speed, you're going to switch up to a tank boot, which would be Malkis Clogs plus 1 for the convert 10 damage taken to MP, because that's pretty good. For the legs, you could go a lot of different ways. Assiduity Pants plus 1, but you could also go Lingo, which is better than Assiduity, but has 1 less refresh tick. So depending on what your mana looks like, this might be a better piece for you to tank in. And if you're not familiar, Geos don't actually tank and hold hate unless they sub Warrior and have Provoke and this particular necklace. Don't ask me how I know this. Where is it? I'll find it. This one. If you have that for the enmity plus 10 and you're subbing Warrior, you could be an actual tank for 30 seconds, and then you have to Provoke again every time. And you also get... no, you don't get Flash. You wouldn't have Flash, I'm pretty sure. Geo doesn't get Flash. That's right. And Warrior wouldn't have it either, So, whole other can of worms. We're not going to talk too much about that. It is fun, though. Just take my word for it. So, since we're not using Enmity Plus, we're going to use damage taken minus, because usually when you are tanking as Geo, you're just standing next to the people in the front line and buffing them. So you want to take as little damage as you possibly can, so the damage taken minus gear is really good. That's why I use these legs, or I'm sorry, these feet. That's why I use these legs, because there's no DT minus legs that I'm aware of, that I have at least. And this has a refresh tick on it and high level competitive stats, so this is a really good leg. The austerity belt, conserve MP, is really good. If I'm going to tank, I have the defense on it as well. There's a few other items you could use. If you have a bubble out, you could use Issa belt for the damage taken minus 3 on the bubble. That's relevant for a tank set, and it has more defense on it, so it might even be a better item to use than the austerity. So it just depends on how you feel about those items. For the back piece, you've got a lot of options. You could go Solemnity, you could go Moonbeam, you could go Meko if you want, depending on what you're doing, right? Or Nanto if you would like. So there's a lot of different ways to go with that gear. For the body and the head, I think it's just about the same as the idle set, because you can't beat those stats really unless you have Jokri plus 2. You're not really beating that witching robe with perfect augments, and you're not really beating that headpiece. Like, unless you have like a DT minus 5 or higher, I would say then wear the DT minus 5 or higher. Even if it's DT minus 4, I'd probably put in these slots instead. But since you don't have that, you're going to go with the refresh ticks for sure to stay in the game. For accessories, you can go a lot of different ways. I go DT minus rings and DT minus earrings. But you can go a lot of different ways. You get a lot of different options for these slots. And that's about it for the tank set, guys. Oh yeah, let's just make sure that I mentioned before I stop talking about it, the Geomancy Maintains plus 2 has the second page, and it says damage taken minus 12% on the Luopan. That's why it's on my tank set, guys, instead of another glove, because the damage taken minus 12 is really strong. Similarly, if I had the Luopan out, I would switch this to an Issa belt. If it was about to die, especially, I would put this on. But for the most part, it really doesn't matter how you gear up for your tank set, as long as you're tanky. And this is a pretty tanky build. It's got some HP and some DT minus, so that's all you're really looking for. Got the refresh tick as a perk, and a little bit of accuracy as a perk, because again, you're using things like, well, I guess you don't really have too much accuracy on this set, mostly magic accuracy. Alright, I take that back. There's no accuracy on this set, but that's fine. We'll get to that. We'll get to a set that's got accuracy on it. Moving on, next set to talk about is the accuracy set, right? So take a look at this. Imagine for a moment that you're actually playing on your Geo, and you've got your bubbles up, and your bubble has full HP, and you have your Indie Color spell up, and it's full duration, and there's nothing for you to do because everyone's full HP, and you just want to do something for your party to actually get the fight, to progress through whatever fight you're in. I would always recommend, since you're standing in the fight anyway, unless the party says it's a bad idea, I would recommend that you actually auto attack. And a lot of times what you're going to see is Pwnsalot misses the attack. Pwnsalot misses the attack. Or whatever your character name is, character name misses the attack. Because you're wearing your Geotank set, which we just showed, doesn't have any accuracy on it. So while you're tanking, you're not really you're not giving any hits to the boss. So if you want to get hits to the boss, if you want to actually do some damage, which will be relevant in the next equip set, our weapon skill set, which I will get to. If you want to get that damage on the parse, then what you really need to do is build yourself a TP set. TP sets have to have accuracy, multi-hit, and store TP. Those 3 values need to be on your TP set in some way, shape, or form. They don't all have to be on the TP set. Depending on the content, you're going to want one more than the other. But the more that you have the options to change, the better your character is going to be for TPing with. So since Geo doesn't have a whole lot, but enough to make a set, you might as well make a set. So I made a set for meleeing, and this melee set uses a melee accuracy shield, which is a tank shield as well, so that's a double whammy for the Geomancer. It uses whatever club, it doesn't even really matter what club. I would say instead I would use the Divinity Club because it has accuracy on it. The Rubicundity doesn't have accuracy on it, it's magic accuracy instead. So if you're meleeing, use the Divinity. It's a tank piece too instead, since we didn't mention that on the last set. If you're using a tank set with weak tankiness, you could switch to Divinity over Rubicundity if you would prefer. Nibiru Cudgel would be what you would use if you were curing, right? But we said we wouldn't talk about a cure set for Geo, so we won't talk about that one. But it's there as an option, so you have the options. Solstice is there if you want to get a Solstice. That's another good option if you don't have the Idris. Or I should rephrase that. That's another good option until you get the Idris, because we all know you're going to get the Idris. If you're watching this video, you're going to get an Idris one day, or you'll give up. Either way. But you're gonna highly want an Idris on Geomancy. On Geomancer, it's a really good item. Basically doubles the potency of all your spells. I mean, who doesn't want that? So the Ambuscade set, the 5-piece Ambuscade set, will be best in slot for accuracy. Getting back on topic here for your TP set. If you're missing a lot of attacks and you don't want to burn a food, or let's say you already used a mage food or a tank food, and you don't have any antacids to like use an accuracy plus food, you would use accuracy gear. So the Jackery set's really good for you. You could get that and have the accuracy there in those slots. Since I'm using the 5 Jackery pieces, I think the Jackery ring's really good. I was told once though that the set bonus only works on the +2 pieces, like it only looks at +2 Jackery pieces. So in this case, the fast cast is non-existent. But since this is a melee piece, it doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter because it's a melee piece. So I'm just gonna leave it in the slot because it has the accuracy on it. 6 accuracy is pretty good, and it matches my set. So let's just go ahead and use it. 5 accuracy plus 9 dex is actually more like 9 accuracy. So Ramu Ring +1 is really, really strong in this slot. For earrings, I like the +10 accuracy here. If you have Telos, you're going to put Telos in the other slot. But if you don't have Telos, then you would use something like Mache because it's got accuracy on it as well. Let's see. Combatant's Torque, I guess, because it's got the combat skills +15. It's really strong. You're trying to melee, your club's going to get more hits in if you actually have something like this. Plus your shield skill +15 is relevant if you're taking hate for whatever reason, and you want to actually block the attack or take less damage, then you have that option if you have the Combatant's Torque on, which would help a little bit more than you would think. And for the belt, a lot of people are having a problem with this slot. I was having a problem with this slot for a long time, but I believe this is the best belt for Geomancer if you're meleeing, because it has the accuracy and the store TP that you need. Period. It's a double whammy. So it's the best piece as far as I'm concerned. So get this. Best in slot accuracy, best in slot store TP on 1 inventory space. Pretty good. Pretty good, guys. And for the Ambuscade cape that you would use, I would go with the Nanto cape, but I would change the augments from these to melee augments. I would go with like Dex +30 or +20, probably +20, and I would go accuracy and attack on it, basically. And I would go store TP plus 10, or I would go store TP plus 10, or I would consider doing store TP plus 10. You get the point, right? So moving on. Next set. Weapon skill set. Weapon skill set. This is going to be the last set that we actually talk about. I just kind of threw this together, but I do believe that it is really strong for a lot of content that you would use weapon skills on. For just to kind of throw out the numbers of damage you would expect with a set like this, my Exudations are doing around 4,000 damage. As a Geomancer, my regular elemental magics only do like 1,000 or 2,000 to bosses, but even with high level magic attack damage, your tier 4 and tier 5 magic spells might do 5,000 damage, 4,000 damage, something like that. But being able to do that on a weapon skill and not miss is really strong. So if you do have the TP and your party allows it, you're not screwing up a skill chain, hop on in there, use your TP set, get that TP, hit him with the Exudation, right? Or the other weapon skill that you have the option to use that's really strong is the Realm Razor. Either one of those is really, really good. So go ahead and get that damage on the parse. But the actual set that you would use for your weapon skill, I'll equip it and we'll look at it. You go with the Fosha pieces, because damage plus 10 on each of these is really strong, and the accuracy plus 10. You would go with your Ambuscade Cape with weapon skill damage augment. You would go probably Dark Matter Aug or Jokri pieces in most slots, depending on what you can get. If you can get weapon skill Dark Matters, then do that, but otherwise you don't have too much weapon skill damage plus stuff for Geo. So you might just be stuck with Ambuscade stuff. You got the Jokri cuffs for the weapon skill damage, so that's something. That's better than nothing. You have the option to get the Sukuroku Hachimaki for the accuracy here, because you will miss a lot of Exudations without accuracy. Similar to Savage Blade, you'll definitely miss them. So use the accuracy plus stuff. Use the Rufescent Ring. Use the... I don't really know if this is going to help you so much. I put it on my set a long time ago for Exudation in particular. So I thought at the time, I thought just tonight that when I made the set, I either didn't have another ring to put on the second ring slot, or this is probably a really good ring, because perhaps Exudation is scaled with strength. But either way, the attack plus and the strength plus, what could go wrong, right? And you don't have a better option. So for your weapon skill, I would do something like that. Maybe put instead, if you know it's not a strength modifier for the weapon skill you're using, you could go Remu, because crit is better than nothing. If it's a dex modifier, that's even better. So you could change the ring if you want, but I used Shikiryu, so we'll just stick with Shikiryu. But you could put anything in the slot. I still think you should use Rufescent. I still think you should use Moonshade with a TP Aug. And for the other earring, it doesn't really matter. Like, this is the same thing for the other ring. There's not too much in the game to help you. So if you don't have the weapon skill damage plus 2 earring for this slot, then I would go with like maybe this, because at least this way you get a little bit of TP back after you slam your weapon skill into their face. Otherwise, if you want to actually boost up your raw stats to get more damage, you could go ahead and put like a strength piece or something, like Adnawa could stay on instead, because it's got the strength plus 3, so if it's a strength weapon skill, there you go. So you can do a lot of different things with this set, but for the most part it's pretty basic. Ambuscade pieces, Fosha pieces, and accessories, and that's about it, guys. And that's pretty much all of the sets, and it makes a huge difference to have that ambuscade stuff on when you're meleeing versus not. It's a huge difference to have that weapon skill accuracy and weapon skill damage stuff on versus not when you're actually landing your Exudations. So there's a lot of different ways to play this job. This job is kind of a jack of all trades. They were really thinking Red Mage when they made Geomancer, and there's a lot of this job has a lot of potential. Let's just take a quick look at the entire palette of abilities that the Geomancer has. Now, I am subbing Red Mage, so I'm going to have a lot of white magic in my arsenal. Sometimes you won't sub Red Mage, and you'll have less white magic or more, depending on what your sub is. But for the most part, you have some cure spells that would require some cure potency gear, which you have. Solemnity Cape. You've got Soar's Shield. You've got Nodin's Gorget. I think Nodin's Gorget you could wear for your cure. Because I didn't actually put that set together, but you could do this, and cure potency goes up. There's some Telchine pieces you could get for cure potency. Augment it with cure potency if you need to. I mean, lots of different ways to play this job. Cure potency plus 10 on the Jive trousers. Like, you could make a cure potency set for that one spell that you need to cast when you get hit in the face for a lot. Then your cure 4 is almost like 2 cure 4s. So you could do that. Couple of other spells you might use on the job. Phalanx. Occasionally you'll use this. Haste you might use, especially for meleeing. Refresh you probably won't use so much. You're too busy with geo spells for the most part. A lot of this stuff you're probably not going to use. Sneak and Invis is on here. Frazzle should have been on there. I think it's actually a black magic. Yeah, Frazzle. So this is probably more important than Distract. Because if they need to Distract, they probably would prefer a Distract 2. Or Distract 3, I don't even know if that's a thing. But yeah, something like that. Not what you have. So I would always use Frazzle. Almost always. It's a good spell. And you've got a lot of magic accuracy to back it up, so it actually lands. And a lot of your CP parties are going to want you to actually use Frazzle anyway. And as a side note for those new Geomancers out there, I'm going to say this a few times because I want to really make sure you understand. When you place a Geo Bubble on the ground, or on a, like, let's say you targeted a party member with Geo Haste. Okay, so everyone in the bubble is always going to have Geo Haste. If you enter the bubble, you get Haste. That's how that works. If you instead targeted a monster with Geo Poison, and you put a Geo Poison bubble down, or any other bubble like Geo Malaise, Geo Frailty, whatever it is, that targets a monster, only the monster that you dealt any damage to is going to actually have that effect. What I'm trying to say is, if there are two monsters, one next to the other, and there are two more monsters inbound but haven't arrived to the party, imagine in this case that all four of those monsters have aggroed the paladin, but not aggroed you. And one of those monsters is about to be attacked by your party. The other three, in this case, is about to be slept by your bard, okay? And saved for later, alright? So the way that this happens is the two that are inbound haven't gotten into your bubble yet. The two that are in your bubble, only one of them was attacked by you, the one that you cast the bubble on. The other one was slept by your bard. The other two that aren't even in the bubble are not relevant yet, but they were also slept by your bard. Out of the four monsters in this situation, in this hypothetical situation, out of those four monsters, the only one that you have affected at all is the one you cast the bubble on. This means, and I'm going to say this several times, this means that you do not have your bubble stats on 3 of the 4 monsters in this case. You probably thought you had 2 of the 4 monsters because they were in the bubble, but that second monster that's in your bubble doesn't have any aggro to you. And because that monster has no aggro to you, because you did nothing to it, then guess what? It's not affected by your bubble. It's not debuffed by your bubble. The party doesn't get any extra damage on it because it doesn't have your bubble effect on it. Do I need to say this again? Right? So why you use Frazzle all the time is more often than not to actually put enmity on the monster than it is for any other reason. Who fucking cares about the magic evasion? It's not a whole lot. It's a tier 1 Frazzle spell. If it lands, that's great. If it gets avoided, who fucking cares? At least now, you've actually done something to provoke the monster, and at least now, that AoE that your bubble is providing you is now affecting that monster. Now, same hypothetical situation, you used Frazzle after you used your bubble, you frazzled that second monster in the bubble. At this point in the game, both of those monsters have enmity towards you, now they are both affected by your bubble. At this same point in the game, those other 2 monsters wake up from behind the bubble. They run towards your party, probably run towards your bard, who might be right next to you in the bubble. So now they're in the bubble. So now, you've cast Frazzle on monster number 2, you've cast Geomalaise on monster number 1. That means that 2 of those 4 monsters, you've done something to them to actually provoke them to where you're actually on their enmity list, so your bubble is affecting 2 of those monsters. Those 2 that just ran in after your Bard, they're not affected by you. And they're not affected by your bubble. So let's say they have resist sleep. Let's say for whatever reason they are highly resistant to sleep and to lullaby. Well, if you just tried to reduce their magic evasion with a bubble, well, that bubble, if it was a magic reduction, a magic evasion reduction bubble, or a magic accuracy plus, well, no, if it was a magic evasion reduction bubble, which will actually show you that bubble specifically that one bubble, that would be the one that you would use in this case, in this hypothetical. Let's say instead of Geomalaise, you used Languor, I believe it is. Yes. Reduces magic evasion for enemies within area of effect. So let's say you put a Geolanguor out and a Frazzle spell. Okay, so now those 2 monsters are affected by your Geolanguor cast on the enemy, and your Frazzle cast on the enemy has generated enmity on those enemies. The other 2 have no enmity towards you. So the Geolanguor bubble that is reducing the magic evasion of the enemies within area of effect is actually only affecting the first 2 monsters. The second 2 that are highly resistant to lullaby in this situation are not having their magic evasion reduced. So you're not doing your job. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You're not doing your job in this case. So if you would like to do your job, you have to make sure that every monster you actually aggro with Frazzle, because it's got a really quick recast time. You can just cast it and forget about it, and you're done. You don't have to do any other bullshit. You don't have to dispel, blind, fire 1, arrow 2. You don't have to do any of this bullshit. You just keep playing your job after that, or go AFK, because you're Geo and you can do that. But yeah, that's basically what I want to hammer home to a lot of people. You have to make sure that you're on the monster's enmity list for the debuff bubbles to actually debuff them. The enhancing bubbles that enhance your party members will always work. The debuff bubbles that debuff the monster will only work on monsters you've generated enmity toward. So just remember that. This is why you have a Frazzle set to begin with. This is why you should always be casting Frazzle. Is there anything else to talk about? I guess if you're a new Geo, I can show you a little bit of basic stuff. Basically, you could go through this whole list and use all these job abilities almost all the time. But the ones that are really important, if you're subbing Red Mage, you get the Convert, so that's really important if you need that mana back, obviously, so that's self-explanatory. Bolster's really important when you're like at around 20% mob HP remaining. If it's a boss that you want to just burn the bolster on, you have to burn the bolster before you cast the Geo spell, otherwise the bolster doesn't affect the Geo spell. The bolster has to affect it. The bolster effect on your character is what buffs the Geo spell, which means you can't cast Geomalaise and then use bolster and hope the bubble goes stronger. Now this is confusing to a lot of people because, and I might be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure I'm right, this is confusing to a lot of people because some of the job abilities in your Geomancer kit affect the bubble after you use them. For example, Ecliptic Attrition and Lasting Emanation. They affect the bubble after the bubble is already out, then you use the job ability, it affects the bubble. The same's not true for Bolster, to the best of my knowledge. It's the other way around. So you gotta know these things. You would have to know that the best way to use Bolster is to actually use Full Circle, or use Radial Arcana, or Mending Halation, or Concentric Pulse, any of those 4, to remove the bubble from the battlefield and do one of the effects, and then you use Bolster, then you cast the bubble. Or you use Bolster, Blaze of Glory, and then you cast the bubble. But I believe that the Blaze of Glory might not stack with the Bolster, so you might not even worry about that. The way I always do things on Geo is I open the battlefield with Blaze of Glory, Bubble, Dematerialize, and then I play my job, and then when it gets low, Ecliptic Attrition, or Lasting Emanation, depending on how lazy I feel or how much mana I have left, and then we go from there. If I have Life Cycle up, I will use it on the weak bubble. When the monster's level, like low HP, 20% or so, Then I use the full circle or one of the others to get rid of the bubble. I use the bolster effect, and then I immediately, since I typically don't have the materialize in Blaze of Glory, I immediately just after bolster cast the Geo Bubble with my 900 skill gear on. I have to have my 900 skill gear on for this cast. It's very important. You do not bolster with less than 900 magic skill. You don't. That is a huge mistake. Because now you're going to have to full circle again and hope that you still have bolster available for the next cast. Don't fuck this up. It's a simple job to play. Your job is very simple. Put the right gear on, cast the right job ability and spell at the right time. And then AFK. It's not a hard job to play. Don't fuck it up. Don't fuck it up. Okay? A couple of other things that you have in your arsenal on Geo. Collimated fervors. This is basically, depending on which direction you're actually facing the monster. Like, let's say Temptrix here is the monster. Depending on what side of him I'm standing on, there is a chart online that will show you the bonuses to your Geo Bubble that you get, plus or minus like 5%. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to make up numbers for you guys. Let's just say, like, if it normally did, like, if you're on one particular side of the monster, you would have like 20 extra accuracy, or 20 extra attack, or 20 extra evasion. You know what I'm saying? That's basically, or the monster would have 20% or 20 like less evasion or something like that, right? Depending on what side you're on when you cast. But for the most part, it's not really that important. And a lot of people don't even use it or think about it. And I rarely see Collimated Fervor used. So just know that you have it as an option, and it might be a good one if you're a main Geomancer to get that extra damage for your party. We've already said life cycle helps your bubble, so you put your gear on for your life cycle and then you use it. Same with Blaze of Glory, the Materialize, the Pulse, the Halation, and the Arcana. Theurgic Focus is only good if you're actually really enjoying your Tier 3 AoEs that you have. If you have the Tier 2 AoEs, I don't even see the point, right? You need the job points, you need the mastery on the job to have the Tier 3 spells unlocked, and then you actually use the Theurgic Focus on the Tier 3s. I've never been impressed with this job ability, so I won't talk about it, okay? Just know that it's available to make that damage. Wide Encompass is really good, especially if you have gifts into it from your mastery on your job. Basically just makes your bubble bigger. Really good. Instead of recasting the bubble, if it's a super strong bubble and you don't want to recast it, maybe you just use Wide Encompass instead, and no one bitches at you for using Bolster at the wrong time because you didn't use Bolster, and you've got that extra radius that you need for whatever case that you might be in. Last but not least, I'm going to talk about Entrust. Entrust is basically a job ability that allows you to cast another indie spell on the party, but you have to cast it on a party member, okay? This party member can actually have a better entrusted spell if they have Geomancy skill gear on. Like, for example, if I entrusted let's just say I entrusted Indie Fury on a Paladin. If that Paladin decided that he wanted a better Indie Fury, he could put on his Stikini rings, because that gives him some Geomancy skill and some handbell skill right there. That may or may not buff. That may or may not actually do anything, but I was told this, so I'm sharing it with you, that when you get an entrusted spell on you, I was told that it isn't really as strong on the person that's not the Geomancer as the indie spell on the Geomancer would be. Because the indie spell on the Geomancer was cast with the Geomancer using a bell and Geomancy skill gear. Okay, so that indie color spell is really strong. But when you entrust an indie color spell on someone else, it's not as strong. Because even though you cast it, from what I hear, even though you cast it, they get the buff. It's their indie spell because you gave it to them, which means their stats are checked. At what point in the game this is checked, I don't know. I would assume that it's a chance that it would only be checked as soon as the spell resolves, which would mean when you entrust, they should have the skill gear on at that point to get the buff. If not, then they don't have the buff. Because I do know you can take your skill gear off of your character after you cast an indie spell, and you still keep the same value on that indie spell. Those buffs don't go away because you took your skill gear off. So if that's the case, and this is a thing, then the person you entrust would want to have Geomancy skill gear on before you cast the spell, and during the casting of the entrusted spell, and at the resolution of the entrusted spell, the person that you entrusted your spell to can now take the Geomancy skill gear off, and they have a really strong indie color spell, as opposed to a really weak one that they would have had. So that's just what I hear. I haven't tested it, so I don't know for sure. But options for you to actually buff your non-geo geomancy skill would be the Stikini rings here, and anything that's all magic skills, like the Incanter's Torque. Those are 3 items right there that you could get to really buff your geomancy and handbill skill to actually make your indie color entrusted spell more powerful. If that's a thing. I'm not saying it is, but you would want to do it that way if it is a thing. And that's about it, guys. I don't have much else to talk about, and I've done a lot of talking in this video. We've gone ahead and looked at the white magics you would get if you subbed a red or a white mage, and the ones that are relevant, the gear that augments them. We've talked about the black magic to a degree, so just know that you have Frazzle, that you want to cast everything that you're going to put in enmity towards, so your bubble has so it has access to your bubble's debuff as well. So Frazzle is very important. We talked about that. The spell will land. You should spam Dispel when you need to because you have magic accuracy gear, and you are a mage that has the Dispel if you subbed Red Mage, so you need to be dispelling if you have it. Period. No arguing here. Do your damn job, right? Your tier 5 magic's really strong if you have the Elemental skill gear on, so you have that as an option. Right there, that's most of your damage. Your Gravity if you're sub Red Mage. Poison 2 will land with magic accuracy, so you should be doing that. No excuses. Same with Dia 2. Same with Bio 2. If there's no Dia or Bio 3 on the monster, you're going to be doing it. That's your job. So use the Enfeebling and the magic accuracy gear I pointed out in the video. Asper, if you have Asper, you need to be using it when you are low because you don't always have Convert available to save your ass, okay? So Asper's important. You get 2 of them. You have the Drain, use them. You have the gear. We didn't talk about a lot of dark magic skill gear, but you have some dark magic skill gear on the job that has Drain and Asper potency. There's a lot in the game you could get, so make a collection and make an equip set for that. What else do we have that's dark magic? The spikes aren't really that important because you're usually not pulling hate. You have some sleep spells that will land if you have the accuracy to back it up, so get that skill set. That enfeebling skill set that I showed you in the video. Make sure you get that finished. It's really important. Your tier 2 and tier 3 AoE spells are actually pretty strong with the Thurgic Focus. So when you get to the point where you have the tier 3s, you would want to use Elemental Magic skill gear and the Thurgic Focus with maybe some JSE gear that augments the Thurgic Focus. I don't know which piece it is. And then you can actually cast some really strong AoE damage spells in that way. So just remember that that is an option for you. And last but not least, you do have the Distract to go with your Frazzle depending on what your job is actually going to be in the party. So that's pretty much all of your spells that are not Geomancy spells. Now, if you're watching this video and you just don't know what your Geo spells do, know that there are a lot of indie spells in the game that you get, and once you unlock the indie spell, you have to roam to a dungeon or some other faraway land in the game of Vana'diel, a Final Fantasy XI game. You have to run all throughout Vana'diel to get the Geo equivalent spell of whatever it is. So like Indie Regen, there's a Geo Regen. You have to have the Indie Regen spell. You have to go to the right Geomagnetic Fountain, and then you try to actually do the quest to get that item. The game will check to see if you have the Indie spell and that you don't also already have the Geo spell. And once that's true, they actually give you the Geo spell. It's a free Geo spell. You just have to go find the fountain. And that's it. So every indie spell has a Geo equivalent. The Geo bubbles are what you would place on the ground, either on a party member or yourself, or on an enemy, depending on if it's a buff or a debuff. You have both of those in the game, and that's how the Geo bubble would work. The indie spell is always going to be on you. You're always indieing yourself, or you're entrusting your indie spell onto an ally, but you're not indie spelling a boss, okay? There's no indie spell that weakens a boss, Okay? You're either reducing reducing some stat in an area of effect, or you're enhancing some stat in an area of effect from you, or from the entrusted person that you put the ND spell on. The bubbles, their area of effect are visible, just like the ND spell, by an aura, and they are placed at a specific location by you alone. You target, you cast, you place it. You place the bubble where you need it. And that's how the Geomancy bubbles work. There's just a lot of different ones to talk about. And this video was about gear, so if you want to learn more about the Geomancy spells, you need to actually look at the wiki. A couple of good wikis to check out. bgwiki.com, that's a good one. FFXIAH.com, that's a really good website to check out as well for information about the game. And an older one that's outdated, but has really good content, especially if it's older content. It has a lot of information that the new website might not have about older content. You could check out this website right here. Those are the three I would recommend. Those are the three that I check out on a daily basis, and I'm very happy about their existence. And that's it, guys. That's it for this video. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch said video. And I really enjoyed talking about this job. I wish I was more in the know about how this job functions, because I'm not the best geomancer in the world, obviously. But I do know quite a bit about the job, and I want to share that with you guys. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'm sure some other viewer will look at them, or I will look at them, and we will get answers for you. Check out those websites that I mentioned. They will show you how to get every piece of gear I showed you in this video, and all the spells that I showed you in this video, and everything that I showed you in this video those websites will talk about. So you need to check out those websites if you didn't know they existed. They are there. And they are there for you, my friend. And that's it. I will see you in my next video. Again, thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch me ramble about Geomancer. Have a good day.